It's Saturday. It's 12 o'clock. The motivation is at an all-time low. And all I want to do today is eat pizza, watch Netflix. But we all know we can't do that today. We're here, it's Saturday, and the motivation's at an all-time low. Alright, anyways, let's jump into it like it's the deep end. We have 5 minutes to talk about motivation. Now, before we get started, my favorite thing about motivation in general is that there's not one type of motivation that can apply to everyone. Everyone has a different type of motivation, whether it's, they're motivated by money, or they're motivated by purpose, or they're motivated to prove people wrong, or they're motivated by, their past failures. Everyone is motivated by different things that have happened to them in their life, or different interests that they have. And that's why it's kind of a hard topic to talk about, because I've always been so annoyed when fucking people are like, I just burped. I've done that like in the last 3 videos. I burped in the middle of talking. Maybe I should stop drinking like water or coffee when I'm doing this, but it's not, I'm sorry. It's not polite. I know. I'll try to work on it. Anyways, one of my biggest fucking pet peeves is that all these motivational shit out on YouTube and all this Instagram crap like motivation and stuff like that. And I think it's all horseshit, because motivation is so individualistic, right? It's so tailored to each person. As I mentioned before, it's different for everybody that walks this planet. So I just wanted to tell you about my motivation and the reason for it. And I think that when you're talking about motivation in general, everyone has different types of motivations, but I think the biggest concept about motivation that you need to focus on is the reason behind that motivation, right? The reason of why that motivates you, right? So for me, growing up as a kid, don't laugh. This is dead. This is seriously true. Growing up as a kid, I was bullied a lot, and I was actually really fat growing up, and until like the 6th or 7th grade, I was really, really fat and overweight. And then from like 7th grade until 9th grade, I grew 5 feet and lost a shit ton of weight and got really good at hockey, and then nobody ever made fun of me again. So growing up from kindergarten until 7th grade, I was picked on all the fucking time. Every day, people called me fat. We would literally go out to recess, and I wouldn't even be picked for flag football or basketball or whatever we were playing outside that day, right? They just wouldn't even pick me. How do you think that makes a kid who's 10 years old feel, right? It sucks. I remember being bullied and remember being made fun of still to this day so clearly, that I remember it like it's yesterday. I remember the kids who said those things to me, and I remember their faces, and most importantly, I remember how it felt. I remember how it made me feel, right? And it made me feel like shit. And for me, that is my motivation, to prove all of those kids wrong. And I know it's kind of a weird concept to be motivated by holding a grudge from shit that happened 10, 20 years ago. But for me, it impacted my life so much. It hurt my feelings so much as a kid that it almost scarred me, and I don't forget that. When you have a scar on your arm or your hand, you're like, I remember that incident like it was yesterday. That's kind of how I feel from being bullied as a kid. It's just on the inside, right? And I know that sounds really lame and shit, but it's true. And that's my motivation, and that's the why behind my motivation, right, is that I was picked on and it hurt my feelings, and I never want to feel like that again. So I strive to be successful. I want to be successful. And that is my why to my motivation of why I do things when I don't want to do them, right? And most importantly, I want to put myself in a position where I can never give somebody the opportunity to say those types of things to me again or treat me like that again. I refuse. So that is my motivation. That is the why behind it. Now, as I mentioned before, everyone has a different motivation, right? But what is your why behind that, right? For example, if you're motivated by money and you just care about throwing stacks around, whatever the fuck it may be, right? What is your why behind being motivated by money, right? Is it that you want to be financially free and you don't ever want to have to worry about bills and you just want to go do what it is that you want to do and never worry about money, and you want to be free and have that freedom, not to be tied down to a job, right? That is a why behind being motivated by money, right? What about if you're motivated by previous failures, right? Maybe you tried a bunch of things, earlier on in your life and you failed over and over and over again, right? Maybe your motivation is to try it again and not fail, right? That is your why to being motivated by failure, right? So whatever the fuck your motivation, in life may be, just make sure that you have a really solid, concrete why behind that motivation, right? Because if you don't have a why behind that motivation, it's not motivation. It's just an idea. It's just a thought. It's one of those little strips of paper that you find in a fortune cookie. It's not motivation. That does not motivate you. You need a why behind the motivation to get out of bed when it's 5 degrees out and there's no sunlight to do the shit that you want to do, right? So there it is. Find out your why behind your motivation. Understand what makes you tick, what makes you get out of bed, what makes you do shit when you don't want to do it, right? That's motivation, right? Anyways, that's it for today. Quick and dirty, giving the people what they want on a Saturday. This video will be out Sunday. And remember, make sure you have a why behind your motivation.